Alright, welcome back to another video of designing in Design Spark. We are going to continue to build our thumb cap here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to get started on building the mold. So the first thing we need to do is copy this bottom face, and that's going to be part of our stem, and we can extrude that out and create the inside impression here. So let's go ahead and click our move button, click on what we want to move, hold control and pull this green arrow to the right, and then we're going to release it. We're going to type 1. So we're going to move it 1 inch outside there. So we created a copy of this bottom face here. Let's go ahead and click on this inner circle, click delete, and we need to extrude the top of this to the bottom of the inside of our cap. So I'm going to click pull, rotate it around, click the top of our circle. I'm going to click this up to button, and I'm going to click the bottom of our thumb cap there so it extrudes it out. Perfect. Okay, so next we need to make this stem a little bit longer. So let's click here and pull it down, say 1.5, so 1.5. Cool. Okay, so that is the beginning of our stem to create the inside of our thumb cap here. Let's go ahead and click select, triple click on our thumb cap, and we're going to go down to style override, click transparent, and now you can see when it's transparent the inside shape of our thumb cap, and we need to create the same shape on our stem at the top right here. So let's go ahead and move our stem into position, triple click it, move it back that 1 inch. All right, cool. And we're going to use the we're going to use a combine tool, okay? So the combine tool, the first thing we need to do is click on what we want to keep. So we want to keep our stem, so I'm going to click there. And you've got these two functions that pop up. You've got the cut tool and you've got the merge tool. So if I click control, it switches between the two, okay? So I don't want to merge it. I just want to cut away some material so we can have an impression on the inside. So I'm going to keep it in the cut. And what am I going to use to cut it? I'm going to use the thumb cap, and that's going to create an impression on the top of our stem here. And if I highlight here the pink, if I click on there, next to my arrow, you've got this eraser icon. So I'm going to erase the inner pink there, and I left clicked on the pink, and now it created an impression on the top of our stem here, the same shape as the inside of our thumb cap. So let's go ahead and move, triple click here, move our stem out again 1 inch, and I'll show you. So now we have an impression of the inside of our thumb cap there, okay? So the bottom edge here, this is going to be an edge that's going to seal the mold. And what we want to do, we don't need this whole stem to be this thick. We need to offset some of the stem inside to create like a little gasket or a little blocking face here, so the material doesn't squeak out, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to take the same method we did before. We're going to click on this top face. I'm going to hold control. I'm going to pull this green arrow to the right and type 1. Cool. All right. So I want to offset this top face by about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to move this face here, pull it down 0.125. Cool. Okay. Now I want to cut through here with this face here. I'm going to click split body. Click on the body I want to split. Click on the plane. Perfect. All right, cool. Now these two parts are separate. If I did triple click, this is separate from the rest of the body, okay? So let's go ahead and we need to offset this part right here so it's not so huge. How we could do that is click the pull button. I'm gonna click right here. Right now the diameter is 0.362, so let's pull it in to where it's about the same diameter or pretty close to the same diameter as the bottom of this part right here. So it's about 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch will work for us. So that's the radius, but the actual size of the stem now is 1/2 inch. Okay, it doesn't necessarily matter how thick it is, just as long as you are bringing it inside of this this sealing part right here, we can create a ledge that is going to seal our mold for us here. So that's the first part. Now, if you click select, you triple click on it, it automatically created a bond between the top part and the bottom part, because there was no gap in between these parts. So automatically the program said, okay, since you modified one part and it's just basically touching the other part, I'm going to make it one piece. So it automatically does it for you. You don't have to combine it at this point. All right, next we need to create the mold body for the outside of our mold. What we're going to do is start with our 2D sketch. We're going to find one of these planes here. So we could pick this bottom circle edge right here, and that's going to give us a nice flat plane there. Let's go ahead and go to the top view. And so I am going to click the circle button, click on the very center of our part here, pull it out. And the diameter, I want it to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to click 1.5 inches. Cool, go back to the 3D mode. All right, cool. So now that is going to be the outside of our mold. And I'm going to move that out of the way for a second. So move that, pull it about 1 inch away. Let's make it 2 inches away. Okay, cool. So what I need to do is think about when I'm creating this mold, I need to make sure that the pressure that I'm pressing into the mold does not allow this mold to crack very easily. So it's got to have a thick enough wall to where when you press that plastic into the mold, it doesn't crack it easily. So this 1.5 inch diameter is actually going to be pretty good for us. So if we click measure and we look at the outside of our thumb cap here, it's 0.891. So we should have a good amount of thickness of material on our mold here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extrude the top of this up. And we want it to where it's pretty thick. So let's make it about 0.5 inches right there. Okay, so the top of our impression, the top of our mold is going to be 1/2 inch. We also need to have some material on the bottom of our mold here. And let's go ahead and do the same thing we did before. We're going to click move, click the bottom of our circle here, and I'm going to hold control and pull it out to the side about 2 inches. Okay, so this is going to be the beginning of our bottom part of our mold. And we can go ahead and extrude that part. Click here, pull it down. And right now, I just want to pull it down to the bottom of our stem that we created. So I click the up to button and, oops, let me click it again. Up to button right there. Cool. Now I'm going to click off of it. So now we've got the main body we're going to use. And we also have the cap that's going to go on top of our thumb stick right here, our thumb cap right here. So let's go ahead and click select the front view. All right. So what we need to do is what we did similar with the stem, creating this impression on the inside, but we're going to create an impression on the top part with this top cap here. So I'm going to click move, triple click this, and I'm going to move it on top of our cap. And remember, you want to move it in whole inches or centimeters or whatever you're going to work it in. So I'm going to click 2, and it's centered back on top of our thumb cap here. And so we're going to do the same thing as far as cutting it. So I'm going to hit combine. And what I want to keep is this top part. So I'm going to click there, and it's going to be cutting away. So I'm going to use my thumb cap. And if I rotate it up and around, I could pick that bottom, that pink stuff. You click there. Now I've created an impression. If I click select, I've created an impression on our top cap here. Click move, triple click it here. Let's move it out about 2 inches. Okay, cool. So now I've created, as you can see, the impression of the top of our thumb cap that we have here. All right, cool. So moving on, we've got that part. Now we need to make the impression of the outside of this thumb cap. Okay, so that might be a little bit challenging if we're not really clear on what we're doing, because if I move this piece into position, let's do that right now actually. And remember, I moved it a whole what, 4 inches, say 4 inches. Okay, cool. So when I cut through this, let me show you what happens. I'm gonna hit combined. I want to keep this part right here, and I'm cutting away. So I'm gonna cut away this thumb cap, and I want to cut away something, right? So if I cut away, say, this inner part right here, which is going to give us an impression of the outside of this cap, let's go ahead and click move. Let's move this away from here so we can see the top. So make it about 4 inches. All right, so now you can see that it took a double impression of the inside of our cap. We don't need that part, right? So how we fix that, we just need the outside boundaries of this cap for this specific part of the mold. So what we can do is click split body. We're going to split this body, and at the very bottom of this part right here, I'm going to click right there, and I want to get rid of this because it's already part of our stem. So I'm going to click that, and now let's go ahead and combine this part, holding control, click this part, so now it's one piece. And let's go ahead and move everything into position. And I'm gonna move this here underneath here, so about 2 inches. My front view. And so let's go ahead and make both of these parts transparent. So I'm gonna click select, triple click, right click, and transparent. So now you can see that it made the impression of the outside of our cap. Click here, right click, and transparent. So now you see that it took an impression of our whole cap on the outside part, and this is going to be our inside part. Okay, so let me move this into position too. Actually click, oops, let's click move. So let's move this over here into position. All right, so it's, if you could tell, now we have the only cavity that's inside of our mold here is what's going to be forming our cap, okay? So I'm gonna hit Control Z, Control Z. All right, so the next thing we wanna do is actually, we need to make a hole through the bottom of our bottom mold here. And that's going to allow us to slide this internal part, the internal stem, through the bottom of it so we can eject this part, okay? So when you're designing molds, it's always good to be thinking ahead as far as like how it's going to be injected, how, you know, if there's an undercut or anything. So what we're doing in this one, this is actually going to be inside the mold as we injection mold the plastic into our mold. And then when the plastic solidifies, we separate these two mold halves, and we're going to press the bottom of this stem up, and it's going to have the cap on top. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the next segment here. All right, so next we need to start to hollow out this bottom part of this mold here. So what we could do is, first of all, we need to move this cap out of the way, because if this cap is touching this bottom part right here and we start modifying something, it's going to combine it automatically. The program thinks that it needs to be combined. So let's go ahead and move this cap out of the way. Remember, pull it away, let's say about 2 inches. Okay. All right, cool. So let's move this stem into position. What I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to locate it from the very bottom of this stem, the center of that stem, to the center of our bottom of the mold, just to make sure it's lined up. So I'm going to click that up to button. Okay. I'll find the center of the bottom. Click there. All right, cool. Now it's perfectly centered. I'm going to go ahead and go to the front view, and you can see that it is centered inside of our bottom mold there. Okay, so what I want to do is cut away so I can insert this stem into our mold. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to hit combine. What we want to keep is we want to keep the outer part of the mold. So I'm going to click there. What I want to take away is the inner part. So you can see it highlighted there. I'm going to click that. It's going to cut it away. And I want to cut away what where the intersection is between our outer mold and our inner mold. Okay. So if I highlight on this bottom part right here, it's got that pink cutaway stem. I'm going to click there. So now I just cut away the inside of this mold to match the outside of this stem here. So let's go ahead and click select, go to our front view, and I'm going to move this stem back into position. Triple click here, move, and I'm going to move this over to, let's say, about 3 inches away. Okay, so now you can see that we cut away an impression of our stem there. Okay, so what I need mostly from this stem is when I put the stem from the top down into it, I just need it to stop at this lip right here. Okay, so I need to reduce some of this material because I'm going to be wasting a lot of 3D printing resin if I don't thin this out. So I want to just create a stopper to where that stem stops. So I can make this also about 1/8 of an inch thick. So let's go ahead and click that bottom ledge right there, that bottom face, hold control, and we're in the move function, by the way. Hold control, pull it out to about maybe, let's say this. Let's make it 2 inches. Okay, that should be fine. All right, cool. So we'll do the same thing we did before. So I'm going to click here, pull it down, and 0.125. All right, cool. So what I want to do is slice this with this plane right here. Okay, so I'm going to hit split body, splitter mold with this plane. Cool. All right, now what we can do next is hit our pull button. And I want to pull this inside bottom part that I just separated from the top part. I want to pull it out so it just creates a little lip on the inside. Let's pull it out, let's say 0.4. That works. All right, cool. And again, you want to make sure that you have enough material on the mold to where when you hold this in your vise, it doesn't crush and crack your mold. And also when you inject plastic into the mold, it doesn't create fracture lines on the mold as well. Okay, so now we have our bottom mold basically finished, except for a couple things. We're going to work on mating the top and the bottom. We're going to work on creating some air vents, and let's go ahead and click the front view. What we can do now is actually kind of clean up a little bit here. So I'm going to get rid of that. I don't need this anymore. Cool. All right. And let's see here. We got our stem good. We've got our bottom mold done. Now we need to start to work on how are we going to line up the top cap and the bottom part of this mold. So we need to create some reference, some indexing holes or indexing marks. So what we can do is start to build up an impression here, an impression here. And let me show you how to do that. Go to the front view. Okay, let's create some indexing domes on the top face here and the corresponding bottom face here. So let's go ahead and click the 2D sketch, click the top of our part here, and we're going to create a reference line here from this side. Find that triangle, click here. We're going to cross the other side, the other triangle, click here. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and trim away the center of that line. So now we have two small lines on the edges of our part in the top. And we want to put like a little point. Let's put a little point in the top in the middle here. And one right over here. Okay, cool. So click on this line, get rid of it. Click on this line, get rid of it. Now we have two dots, or 2 points on the top of our part here. Let's go back to our 3D mode. We're going to click up here on our sphere. Click here. Click on that point here. Pull it out. Type 0.15. Enter. We're going to click here. Click 0.15, enter. Okay, cool. So just to verify, let's go ahead and use the measure tool. That's 0.15. This is also 0.15. All right, good. So what we want to do is copy these reference points to the other face, okay? So let's click the move button. Click this dome here. Hold Control, click the other dome. And now we're going to hit Control C, Control V while it's in the move function. And now we can just click this red arrow, pull it here. And remember, it was about 2 inches away. So we're going to click 2. Awesome. So let's go ahead and use a combined tool here. What we want to keep is this top part. And what we want to cut away is that dome we just moved here. Click here. Now, if we move it around, you can see the pink. We're going to click that pink part. So now just cut it away. So let's click out here so we can reset the combine tool. We want to keep the top and we want to cut out this little half dome. Click that. Now there's another pink here. Click that. Perfect. All right, good. So let's go ahead and get rid of these domes. So we can triple click on there. Delete. Let's go ahead and triple click on this part, this dome that we moved, delete. So now we have an indentation on the top that matches our domes that are on our other part here. Okay, so that's how you build the index. So when we put these mold halves together, they will line up perfectly. All right, let's clean this up a little bit. So, and then we could put this together and see what it kind of looks like. These little reference points here. Click there, get rid of that. Get rid of that one right there. All right, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this into a transparent object too so we can see our work. Click the move. Let's move this over on top of here. That was 2 inches. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and move this into position as well, which is say 3 inches. Okay, if we look at the front view, I'm going to move this out of position. Again, let's move this 2 inches too. And remember, we have our stem in here too, so let's move this here. Let's move this guy over 2 inches. Okay, cool. So let's work on this bottom part of the mold right here. So what you want is you need to have a hole big enough to where when you inject the plastic, it flows quick enough. You also want to make sure that you build a gate and a runner or whatever you need for this particular mold for this plastic part. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to put a hole in the front face right here, or the front part right here. And whatever I use, I got to use it to cut into the other part. So let's go ahead and we're gonna find a flat plane we could work with, and we're gonna build off of that. So I want to put a 1/4 inch hole through the front of this face right here. So I'm going to click the 2D sketch. I'm going to click on the top of the face I want to use. I'm going to get a construction line or reference line here, find this quadrant here, and straight down there. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and offset that line over here, 0.125. Okay, now let's click this, go the other way, 0.125. So now we've got a 1/4 inch distance in between there that we can build a hole through there. Okay, so next we can go back to the 3D mode, and that's all it is, just a few lines right there. Let's go back to the 2D sketch button, and I want to find the very end of one of those lines I just created. Now let's go ahead and click the circle tool, find the very center of that line that we put in the middle, click, pull it out to one of these lines right here. Okay, Now we've got a circle that this is going to be the entranceway for our melted plastic. And we'll go to our 3D sketch, our 3D mode. All right, so one thing I don't want to do is pull the circle straight through and just have just it cut away whatever's in its way, because if you look at our part, it's got a little flat edge right here, okay? And I want to take that and use that to my advantage. And so when I demold this part, I want to hide what I can. So if I stay below this line right here, I could basically, hide material from being, having to be cut off over here when I take the part out of the mold. So what I need to do is actually create a flat side on the other side here. And that's going to be the distance of this little edge right here. So let's go ahead and measure that. So from here, hold Control, click that line. It's 10,000ths of an inch between those two lines. So I don't want to go more than 10,000ths of an inch above this flat plane right here. So what I want to do is actually extrude this up and use the back face. And I'm going to do something called lofting. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to design, go to 2D sketch. I'm going to click right here. And what I need to do is create closed geometry. All right, so I'm going to click here. I'm going to click on the end of this line that I created. Click here. Okay, cool. So I basically closed off the geometry here, and when I go back to the 3D mode, you'll see that it is in fact closed off. Okay, and I can use that to my advantage. I'm going to get rid of this circle, or I'm sorry, the center line right there. And what I want to do is I'm going to extrude this up 10,000ths of an inch. I'm going to hit pull, click here, pull up, 0.01, enter. Cool. All right, now what I want to do is, since I extruded that part from an actual piece, and I go back to select and I triple click on it, it's going to click my whole part. Okay, just like I was saying, anything that touches this is going to create one part. So I need to split that again. Okay, so I'm going to split this body on this plane right here. Okay, I'm not gonna delete anything. I just want this piece to be separate. Okay, so I'm going to move that, click move, and I'm going to hold Control, click this circle, and I'm going to move that about an inch in front right here. Okay, just so it doesn't reconnect to this part that I'm doing. And I can also get rid of these little lines right here. Delete that. Delete that. Okay, cool. So now what I could do is use the 10,000ths of an inch extrusion here, and all I need is this back face. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to right click, click detach. Okay, so that detaches that face. I'm going to triple click on the rest of the part, and I'm going to delete that. Okay, cool. So now what I have is something I can use to loft. So I've got a flat face and I got a flat face. I'm going to click up here, and I'm going to blend it. Okay, some call it lofting, some call it blending. This program calls it blending. I'm going to click that, click this face, hold Control, click this face, and now I've lofted something I can use to cut into our part. But I don't want it to come to a small 10,000ths of an inch, because it's going to be hard for the material to go into the part at that point. So I need to extend this like a semicircle down here. So I'm going to go ahead and click the 2D sketch mode. I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to rotate this around so I can see a little better. All right, so I want to actually use the circle tool, and I am going to click the center of my line here, hold out to the edge there. Okay, cool. And I can start trimming away what I don't need. So I don't need this top circle, because that I want to have flat on the top here. And then from everything else, I can kind of trim away this. And this helps open up the area where, oops, not do that. Let's click this here and here. It helps open up the area where the material is going to flow into my part here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and blend it with the loft tool here, hold control here. All right, cool. That looks a lot, oops, let me do it again. Here, and then hit enter. Okay, cool. Now I've got something I can use to cut into my mold, and it gives us enough area to inject the plastic into our parts. So let's go ahead and move that part back on top. Before I do that, if I do that, this edge right here is not going to go enough into this part, so I need to actually pull this face a little bit further. Click here, hold it up, maybe right there should be fine. Okay. All right, so now let's move that into position. Triple click and move that 1 inch. Okay. So now it's got a flat top here, and if I cut that, let's go ahead and click the combined, click what we want to keep, what we want to cut, and again, that little pink area, I'm going to click that, it deleted it. Cool. So let me move the cutting part to the other part of the mold, and I believe it was 2 inches. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead, and if you look close, it's staying below that 0.010 of an inch flat outside edge, and that's fine. That's perfect. So it helps us with cleanup when we pull it out of the mold. Okay, so let's go ahead and separate those two. So combine. I want to keep the top. I want to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of that part right there. Okay. Now, since we're done using it, we can just delete that. Okay, so and let's put it into position real quick. Save this, go to the front view. All right, let's move it into position. Click the move. And we move this 2 inches. Perfect. Okay, cool. Now let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so we have a place where we can inject the plastic into the mold. Okay, and it kind of tapers down into the cavity, which is what we want. That's good. So the next thing we need to think about is clearances. All right. So when we 3D print these parts, we want to make sure that they're going to fit into each other. So we need to offset some of these faces so they will actually slip inside there. And from my experience, 5 to 10 thousandths offset actually works pretty good. If you have extra material, you don't have to sand it too much. But what we want to do next is actually offset wherever these parts touch, this stem right here, wherever it touches, we need to offset that by about 5 to 10 thousandths. So let's go ahead and measure that. We have a circle diameter of 0.501. So if we offset that by, say, 5 thousandths, let's go pull. Let's click here, pull, and I'm going to call it 0.2, let's say 0.245, 0.245. Okay, cool. All right, and that would give us enough clearance to bring it into the center right here. So it's not really a slip fit. It's a loose fit. Okay. Also, this outside edge is going to be touching the inside, so we can also offset that by about 5 to 10 thousandths. So we're going to go here, click pull this in. So we're going to pull it in, let's say about 5 thousandths. Right about there. Okay, cool. Right on. So that will prevent us from having to sand too much for these parts to fit. And yep, that looks good. Also, let's also do this. Let's move this part up about 1 inch. All right, cool. These parts right here, we can also kind of offset if we want to, because these domes, these half domes, are going to fit inside these other domes right here. So we can make those a little bit smaller if we want to, maybe call it 0.07 0.07. Okay, make those a little bit smaller. Click here, 0.07. Okay, cool. So those are going to fit together fine without too much sanding. Let's go to the front view. Okay, so far so good. What else do we have to do here? We also have to make sure that we have a hole punched in this stem right here, because when the stem gets inserted into this mold, underneath here is going to be a spring. Okay, that spring is going to hold tension on the stem to keep it into position while we inject plastic into this mold. So what we have to do next is put a little hole through the bottom of that stem. Whoa! And to do that, let's go ahead and do the same thing we did before with the 2D sketch mode. Let's go ahead and go to the bottom of this part here. And we can actually put a line center here, bring it out. This just keeps it perpendicular. All right, go back to 3D mode and go back to the sketch mode. And I'm going to find the end of that line. So that gives us a front view here. Let me go ahead and draw a circle. Let's call it 0.25. We're going to have a 1/4 inch circle. And again, we got to move this out of position. So that's centered there. And we got to move this out of the way. And let's go to the front view just to kind of see where it's at. Positioned on our part here, bring it up to about maybe another 1/4 inch up. Cool. All right. So this is going to be something we're going to use to cut through both the stem and this part right here. So I am going to extrude this part right here, and I'm going to copy. So click move, Control C, Control V, and let's move this here 2 inches. All right, cool. So it's inside of that part. And as long as it's all the way punched through there, we're good. And what I'm going to do is click the combined, click here, and the pink is gone. Get rid of that. So we punched a hole in the bottom of that part. I don't need this line here. And so what we can do is also do the same thing with this. Move, double click it, move it back so it's all the way through our part there. And I'm going to click combine, keep this, get rid of this, and get rid of this. Oops. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this again. So let's do it again here. All right. So I'm going to move this into position. All right, so now I want to get rid of the hole in there. So I'm going to click this. I want to keep this. I want to get rid of this. And I want to get rid of that centerpiece right there. Cool. All right, escape, triple click there, get rid of that. Now we've got a hole through our stem. We've got a hole through the outside. This is basically an access port. So this is where we're going to put a cotter pin and a washer. And basically all this does is it's just a through port so we can adjust our cotter pin and all that. So but I do want to offset this piece right here just so we have enough room. So I'm going to bring it out to say about 175. Cool. All right, that looks good. So let's go ahead and put it into position. Let's move it. Okay, so it's 2 inches. Okay, so if you can see now, we've got the stem with the hole in it. We've got access to put the cotter pin in there. We have enough room for the washer in the bottom. We have enough room for the spring on the inside right there. And so the next thing we're going to do on the next video is do some finishing touches here. And we have to have... we have to get rid of some sharp edges. We've got to clean up other stuff we didn't see, but we're going to finish that up in our next video, and we will see you then.